Okay, welcome back everyone. Is everyone here? Is Cebu? Are you here? Your Cebu is here. Vietnam, are you here? Can someone unmute? Is Vietnam here? Unmute and say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Vietnam is here. Slay. Okay. So, just a few comments about what Alvin was saying just now, like about the service fee. I think using connotation to rebrand it from a fee to like, oh, this is a way for you to contribute back to the society and improve the environment. I think that's really smart. And the fact is that even throwing out food, there's a lot of costs associated with like transportation, of disposal, of logistics, and that's why like like 1 ringgit, it's extremely reasonable. Like Alvin, you should increase the price. But I think even then, like the charging 1 ringgit per gas pack is like the standard, and the 5 ringgit per kg of food waste is a very good incentive. Like so, you know how when you go to all you can eat, they will charge you for every 100 gram, they will charge you, and that's to make sure you don't waste food. And in this sense as well, like it makes a lot of sense because the more kilograms, the more logistics and fuel it uses. Um, and one more thing is the difference between what a waste and normal food initiatives. And I think what I really like, I'm amazed by what a waste. It's the term that you don't give a man fish, you teach them how to fish. That's really what a waste does. Like when Alvin goes and sees people who are in need, he will like help them like, oh, do you need help? You need support. You need to find a job. I can give you a job, and he empowers them. Whereas unfortunately, a lot of soup kitchens and food banks, like it's not like they're doing bad things, like it's really they have good intentions, but a lot of them are just giving. It's a very short-term relief. But if you're getting food from the food bank long term, like you really don't get anywhere, and you're not even going to a better place. So I think what a waste what they do is really really good. And when you're designing solutions, it's very important to think of sustainability in mind, financial sustainability, manpower. Whether does it solve the problem long term? Does it help your spreadsheet long term, or is it just short term? I'm not sure if you all are aware. There's a very very big issue with volunteerism right now. A lot of like people, like white people, will fly to Cambodia and teach Cambodian children English for 2 weeks, make themselves feel good, then they leave. Then you think like, oh, they will tell people like, oh, I help children in Cambodia. No, you just give them trauma. You literally develop a connection with them and just that. That is horrible. So when you're designing solutions, always empathizing with your beneficiary is so important. And think, however they feel, you need to take that into account because that's what's most important. And we'll go more into that with our next sessions with IDA, prototype, and whatnot. But for now, I think I'll just wrap up with YB Michelle. I think we have empathized, and I think for Alvin, he shared that his main beneficiaries consist of B40. So I'm sorry, I think we didn't explain what B40 is. In Malaysia, in the terms of like how we classify people's economic situation, you have the T20, which is the top 20%. Then you have the M40, which is the middle class, the middle 40%, and B40 is the bottom 40%. So B40 is generally people that earn like below minimum wage or like barely minimum wage. So that means that usually to qualify for welfare, you need to be in that category. So Alvin was talking about B40, refugees, both documented and undocumented, street friends, and I really like that Alvin uses the term street friends instead of the homeless, because the connotation is really very different. Like you're being very respectful of them and you're treating them as human beings. Because the term homeless has had a very bad connotation. I don't think it's a bad word. It's just that the way people use it is not very good. And also welfare homes like orphanages or senior homes. Yeah, and of course, I think Trump brought it up in the chat. Local context in Philippines and Vietnam will definitely be different. So when you're designing solutions, definitely take local context into mind. For example, in Malaysia, we have B40. And in Malaysia, unfortunately, refugees they don't really have a lot of like rights because they're not recognized as refugees by the Malaysian government. But maybe in the Philippines they are. I'm not sure of the whole thing. And even within different regions in Malaysia, there are different contexts. So definitely take into account your local context when designing your solutions. Um, Maybe YB Michelle, maybe could you just share with us a few things about the people that you serve with food aid? What are their main challenges? Are they short-term or long-term challenges or a mix of both?
Long term,
Long term.
definitely long term. Of late, what we saw as a result of the movement control order, are a lot of people falling into unemployment. And when you have unemployment, the demand for work then becomes an issue because people are not recruiting as fast as we would like them to. Yet the type of services that are functioning during the movement control order might not be work that people want, and so there's a mismatch, right? So unemployment, and then you have various problems that come with it. We had to think about reskilling and upskilling a lot of our workers in order to fit market demand. You also had a problem of income because, for example, before the movement control order, I have planned my life in such a way where with my income, I can feed my family of, let's say, 2 children, right? But now if I shift and take on a job that has lesser income, I am faced with an additional problem because, yeah, I can survive, but it's just bad, you know. So it's a long-term thing. I can provide them as much food aid as I want, but if I don't solve the root cause, it's never going to be enough. How much food aid can I give, right? I mean, one bag of rice can last you for how long? And I don't think people want to continuously give years of aid. I think they want to be empowered, and that is where policies become important. Make sure that we really tackle these problems. Now the situation is much better than what it was, let's say, last year or even earlier this year. The issue of mismatch is less. Also because we see the markets opening up and investment coming in. I think that's so important because with investment coming in, we see more opportunities opening up and definitely more employment opportunities as well. And so that's what I mean by long term, right? I can solve it for the short term by giving you a voucher, but how many vouchers can you take? Unless now I'm thinking about it, it's institutionalized, right? So you look at the US, for example, the nutritional program. It's within a system where each state is empowered to determine the category of beneficiary. So they draw up the guidelines that say income of how much and below, family of how many members and above. And then that will qualify you for, it was called food stamps, I think, or something else now.
It depends. They have EBT, electronic benefit transfer, but it
Right,
depends.
okay.
Every state has a different.
Different, yeah. So it's different. I think then it becomes a policy. So it's now we have it for single mothers and single fathers. That's a category that they've identified are the most burdened in terms of income and also household. Because I am one person and I'm working for an entire family as opposed to families that have 2 streams of income, like most of us here. So they need aid, and so we provide them a monthly stipend of 300 ringgit, and that goes directly into a card, and this card can only be used in grocery shops. So we make sure that it's used for that category of goods. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, YB. Yeah, I think especially touching on unemployment, certain industries were really hit very bad with COVID. Tourism, flight attendants, pilots, tour guides, hotel workers, and actually on the way back from my airport like 2 days ago, I was talking to the Grab driver and he was telling me like on like right now when things are back up, he can earn like at least 500 ringgit a day if he works like 12 hours. During lockdown, he was earning 50 ringgit a day. And he was doing like Grab food orders. Like I think in Philippines and Vietnam, we all have the Grab as well. He was doing Grab food and he's using a car. Petrol in Malaysia isn't that expensive, but even then he was really struggling to the point he had to apply for a job at Unify. And he has a diploma, and that was a job for high school graduates, and they were like 1,700, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And that's the situation with a lot of people seeking employment at that time. I think people were not hiring, whatever jobs are available, like people are just scrambling for jobs. About food aid, I think unfortunately with a lot of food aid given by government, like federal government and state government, and like being very frank, it's not nutritious, but for logistical reasons.
Yeah.
Because you cannot give fresh produce or meat.
No, I actually was I was one of the state assemblymen that rebelled against the system. So we were given allocation, and in the guidelines it stated very clearly, just like federal, what are the categories of goods that you must buy, right? Packet rice, canned food, salt, oil. Come on, look at that bag of goods and tell me what you can actually make with it. It just doesn't make sense. I'm going to fry what, sardine and rice? And how is that nutritious? So I told the state government, I'm not going to use my money for that purpose. you are going to see that I will have a surplus and it looks like I've not used the money, but it's for good reason because your system doesn't work. All right. I told them you have to change the system to a food voucher system. I identify which supermarkets are around my area, ADUN, Jaya, I can get value for money there, and I will buy vouchers. Logistically, it makes a lot more sense as well. Instead of storing bags of rice that is eaten up by rats, I have vouchers, just a stack of it in my office. And whoever that comes, you determine what is suitable for your family. Canned goods, high salt. Automatically, lots of people cannot take. Rice, wrong kind, diabetic patients cannot take. Right? And people are saying that, oh, beggars can't be choosers. I absolutely disagree with that.
That's
You must treat people with dignity. And you have to find a system that maximizes your resources and is the most efficient. So I told them, I'm buying vouchers. I don't care what you say, right? This is how we are going to do it. And true enough, from my cupboard had to load bags of rice. We moved on, and we only had just a stack of vouchers in our office. Whoever came, we just gave it up.
The good thing is I became damn fit lah. That was the most fit I've ever been, lifting the rice. But yeah, it's true. Logistically, it makes so much sense. You're empowering people to buy things they need. It's less work for you, less work for them. I don't know why unfortunately, a lot of people think that if you give vouchers, they're gonna misspend it. But that's very, very patronizing of you that, oh, I know what's best for you. When you look, like Webby Michelle was saying, there's salt, sugar, like all these things, instant noodles. Like what kind of meal are you gonna make for your kids? And a lot of mothers actually struggle with milk formula, like for infants and children, and like it's very, very expensive to buy. And that was a big issue as well. So actually, I think what YB Michelle pushed for, I think YB Wong Chen also pushed for, like with vouchers makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, a lot of charities look down on their beneficiaries, and I think they shouldn't be doing that. They should be empowering them and respecting them as human beings. Vouchers, actually, to give a bit of context in the US, so as YB said, every state has food stamps, and they call it food stamps because it used to actually be food stamps. But now a lot of states are doing it in a card, or they might do cash or a check, I'm not sure. But again, if you bank it into people's account, the sad reality in the US, there's a lot of drug abusers, so a lot of it might be used for drugs. So they started giving electronic cards that you can use at almost any store. And in the US, it's very good because you can use it at restaurants, at cafes, at grocery stores. And if you use this card, you also get the discount.
Yeah.
So that's how it works and every state has a different program. I also volunteered with a food bank in San Francisco, SF Marine Food Bank, which is one of the biggest food banks in the US. And what I really respect is they did something very similar to Alvin. They talked to farmers and were like, you have a lot of surplus food. Let me buy it in bulk, or you can donate it to me. And that's why a lot of the food that we gave out as SF Marine Food Bank was actually surplus food. They don't look like the best food, but it's good food. Like, food doesn't have to be cosmetically nice. In fact, if your food is cosmetically nice, it's probably full of pesticides, GMOs, and it's not good for you. So food is not meant to look perfect. It's starting to rain, right? And YB, I actually have one more question. Actually, two more questions.
Sure.
Given that you have such a limited budget and you want to help everyone, but you have one of the largest constituencies, and the fact is every constituency gets the same amount. So if a constituency has like 50,000 people and the constituency here has 250,000 people, they get the same allocation, which I think is ridiculous. Like, it should be based on population and need. But how do you triage people based on need without like kind of intruding too much and interrogating them, but also making sure that your aid goes to the people that deserve it?
This is where what you said, Alvin, about community ties becomes so important. We are very cautious with the way we view our beneficiaries to make sure that it's done in a dignified manner. And a result of the investigation is natural community for one, and also knowing the housing area. So I know, for example, if a request comes from this housing area, I don't even have to ask very many questions. I would send it across. But if it comes from, let's say, Terrace House, this area, I probably need to ask a few more questions because we do have abuse here. That's also a reality. So how do we strike a balance between also abuse? We had one case, just to share, in the USG area. When we arrived in that house, we saw 12 bags of rice. And so we said, oh, what's going on? This is food that could have gone to other people that really needed it. And it was over benevolence, basically, where this guy abused the white flags and just kept it out regardless of how many bags. So if it is in an area where no should be okay, but the request is coming from them, call up our community leaders and say, hey, this house, this road, what is the background? And they would tell us, oh, okay, this is what's happening there. And we will confirm it on site. So we go in, we take a look, and usually you will be able to tell someone's family situation through their fridge. Through their fridge. So there is a very courteous way of trying, honestly, you can look at your fridge, and then you will be able to know whether you have of that. So that's how we talk the chat, as opposed to asking them for their income statement. We do that sometimes as well. So it's a case by case.
That's really smart. I think, yeah, that really doesn't like intrude too much, but also that does the job well. I remember I was with Ben, we were delivering the food voucher, and this was for people who are like minimum wage, right? We went there and we're like, why is there a BMW in the porch and a Vespa? Like, why? And we're like, this house definitely did something.
Yeah, so no, in those kind of cases, so that's where you can tell from the fridge at what point in life they're at. Sorry, we're just walking in.
Yeah.
We'll walk.
But also the thing is, right, like sometimes people have a terrace house, even a bungalow, when they apply for food aid, and I think it's really important to check out. Because some people might have a big house, might have assets like this, but they were passed down from generations. But they actually have no savings. Because I remember when I entered at Kampung Tuku, that was most of the cases. A lot of old people there, they have a big house, but you want to go into the house, it's a mess. Like they are not doing well. But they own the house, it was passed down to them. And I think that's why it's very important to not assume. And I think a lot of people assume sometimes. They're like, oh, your house is so big. And sometimes people who live in low-cost flats are actually very well to do. There are some people who drive a BMW, I don't know why they choose to live in a low-cost government flat. So it's very weird. You have to take a case-by-case basis. And I think even like knowing the neighborhood, I remember my first day on the job, and I was doing the triage, and then like, I'm like, how do I know? They're like, you will know. You will know based on the address. I'm like, how will I know? And like slowly I knew like every single low-cost flat. And the moment you see a low-cost flat, it's like, oh, it's fine. So I think that's really smart, YB. One more question for you, YB, before you go, is what are the constraints versus obstacles in solving food security? Like, what are things that are like limits, and what are things that can be overcome in solving food security?
Everything can be overcome. It's just a question of how you go about it, right? I think the first thing that the short answer is yes, there are obstacles, all right, but everything can be overcome. What you need to do is you need to identify firstly what is your problem, all right, and then you have to identify even before you get to your solution what resources you have and how you try to tackle it. I always believe this: the two problems come together, you actually find a solution, right? So don't isolate problems and look at it as such, because if you actually find a solution, how that actually comes about really depends, right? So let me try to think of an example. Okay, I have an abandoned piece of land in exchange, all right, and then at the same time I have an issue of security, but I have an investor who can't find land, wants to build it in the city, and yet I have an abandoned land. Why can't I couple it all together? Right? So I solve the problems of the abandoned project, and yet at the same time address food security and channel the resources that this investor has in order to solve both the land and also food security problems. So actually, that's something that I am working on right now. Look at that, because when you try to rethink and reframe your mind, you realize that the solution actually lies within the problem. And it definitely can be done. Now, with regards to food security, actually, it is a very complex problem. What I would encourage you to get is the entire supply chain, all right? From seedling to planting to supplying in the shops to consuming to waste. Think about the entire chain. What are the issues that you can identify? And then from there, every juncture there's a problem, and at those junctures there's definitely a solution. I guarantee you that. So for example, like what Alvin said, in the supply chain, why is it that in all supermarkets, the supply of vegetables that they have is that particular size and that particular shape? What happens to everything else? That's a problem. But in that problem, I can very well tell you that there is really a solution. Okay? If you look at farmers, the technology that they use is so old, right? How do we get them to buy new technology so that they can produce more, right? And at the same time maximize the resources. So that's another opportunity. If you look at shops, for example, what are the challenges that they face? So much so that their buy-in to goods are only good of that shape and goods of that size. What are their motivations, right? How do you change that? How do you deal with that? What are their concerns? Is it legal? Like what Alvin said. Restaurants, hotels, why do they not want to reduce their supply? Do we protect them? We do like what France did, where any supermarket, if you want to throw away food, it then becomes illegal. Now, are those considerations that we want in place? So think about it holistically. Don't think about it as just food security problem. It's the entire supply demand system. Then what are the things that support it? So I talked about land, for example, right? What are the challenges when it comes to land management, land ownership? What are the challenges when it comes to water? Oh, okay. What are the challenges when it comes to owning of assets? All these have impact on food security. Okay, interdependability, independence of food security, for example. Yeah. So climate change, is it a problem? Is there a solution? Is there a problem and a solution? Think about that.
Thank you so much, YB. I think that is actually the last question for you. Do you have four, right?
Yes.
Yeah, YB has
Right,
to
it's
go.
outside.
Oh, you're right, it's outside.
Correct.
Do you need an umbrella? Right. Thank you so much, YB, for joining us on taking time out of your Saturday afternoon to be with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so
You
much.
wanna?
Oh, do you want to take a photo?
Yeah.
So how we're gonna do it is Philippines, you all turn on your camera, and anyone here who can, everyone on Zoom turn on your camera, basically. Maybe we'll take a photo of virtual and then the in-person.
Yeah.
So maybe Alvin and YB can stand at the TV, and y'all can just turn on all your cameras. I'll give you like, yeah, stand next to the TV.
Next.
So then there'll be like kind of like group picture, but they're virtual.
Oh, and then the rest can
like a separate one because it's not really much space now.
Okay.
So I give everyone else about 15 seconds to turn on your camera. If you don't know how to turn on your camera, please ask for help. 15 seconds, okay? 15.
All right.
14. All right. So YP and Alvin will stand there. So the participants here, you all just wait first. You all will take a picture. Like we will take a in-person picture. Yeah. So let me just take the picture first.
Those
Everyone,
guys at the back.
camera on. Oh, actually, yeah. I can.
Yeah, you guys can sit
Y'all
there.
can sit here and you'll be in that picture.
Yeah, correct.
That's cool.
The back, you
Come on,
can
everyone sit here. Come.
to the front so that it's easier for picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna zoom up. It's actually done.
Or make it smaller. Yeah. Ah. Wow. So cool.
See, that's nice.
Oh. So you
Actually
can have
got
guys
group mode.
that sit there.
So it's automatic one. Oh, see?
Nice.
Okay, everyone, some people sit, some people stand.
Hey, then we can sit there also, lah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Then we don't have
Then you can just take a picture like this. We can just take a screenshot. I never thought of that. Oh, okay. I actually sit here because I need to take a screenshot.
Oh, okay. Someone sit here.
Someone sit. Oh, someone sit next to. No one want to sit. You're scared, is it? Come. Okay.
Okay.
Min and Nina, do you want to turn on your video? If you don't, it's fine. But I'm gonna hide the people who are not video on.
All right, let's do this.
All right. Everyone,
One.
wait.
Okay, you do the screenshot.
I will do the screenshot. Hold on.
Okay,
1,
perfect.
2, 3. Got it. I think this should be good. I'll send it right now.
And then now each of us will put on an emoji for another pic. Let's do that.
Oh yeah, everyone put on an emoji on Zoom. How do I do it? Wait, reaction. You want heart or what? Celebration. Heart. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much, YB.
Thank you guys.
And YB, do you have a way for them to get in touch with you? Maybe like if they wanna intern with you. I just saw that you posted that so YB is hiring interns. If any of you want to intern with YB,
Sure, come drop me a C. I'm on all social media platforms. Yeah.
and you reply, right?
Yeah.
Ah. You reply. Some people
Thank
they
you so
don't
much,
reply.
everyone.
Yeah.
We'll be back on Gather Town for 15 minutes, and then we can start our next activity. All right.
All
I'll
right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank
you so much.
It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you.
Slay the day. Oh, that's right. Oh, you're oh, what the hell? Wait, YEL, go there now. Oh, YEL, go there. The young, I know for youth leadership, but I don't know what the key was. You all are really different. Did you go to school there?
All right, bye guys.
Take a picture with them. So they are all from YEL, which is Youth Empowerment Leadership. They're all refugees. No, you should be in the picture lah. So everyone should be in the picture. Then we ask somebody to take photos. No, we can put it. Yeah, everyone go. No, I think YEL wants a picture with you. Alvin, you want to go with the yes. Alvin, you go inside. YEL lah, YEL and okay.
All right. Come.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Hey, you want to do silly one or not? I don't know.
1, 2.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Who's one is this? It's up to us.
Yeah, Michelle, don't worry. Okay. Okay, perfect. Got it.
Oh, maybe I got umbrella. I better get my umbrella. I go and get my umbrella. The biggest one. Okay.
No, I stay in Jakarta time, like my friend house in Mexico. I have to park it out. So we eat and out anytime. All the time, every day, KL, Subang, KL, Subang. Like when we smell that, now that fall, aku tinggal dalam kantin.
Okay, we can all take a little snack break. Please grab anything you guys want, grab any drinks you guys want. Stand up, sit down, do a little workout. Yeah? Sure. What happened? Go for it. Of course, taking selfies with our very cool devices.
I will do boomerang, okay? Um, I want to join. Yeah, come. Yeah. Selfie time. What's wrong?
So, if you guys
It's a boomerang.
It's a boomerang. 7, 3, 7, 30.
So cool. But how does it sense? I still don't know. When do you go today? I feel like it's really sensitive on at the.
And if you don't know what team you're
Yeah,
on,
here.
That's Henry, yeah.
okay, grab my computer and then I'll let you guys know what are your teams.
Okay, y'all, who is? The thing is it's raining very, very heavily. Meteorological department say there's a chance of flash floods in KL. So if you are unable to go back, you can stay over the night. If it really comes down to that, because if it's flooding, who's going to fetch you? So if you look at the rain, it's already flooding outside, and KL, most of you are from where? KL, Kulu area. Subang. Who's from KL? Which part of KL? Kepong? Gambut, you? Mangsa, you? Kepong? I thought there's two Bayang from KL. Ampang. Okay, so whoever needs to stay over, if your parents cannot come here, you can stay over. They just need, if you're under 18, we need their consent. But in this case, it's not really like, oh, I just want to stay over. It's really like you cannot go home time. It's like you're just sheltering here.
It's important.
Yeah. We don't want later your
Just in
parents.
case.
We don't want later your parents try to drive here, right? Then they get the car floating there like a boat. Later their car gone. Okay, so what's going on now?
So we're taking a break. We're starting in about 7 minutes. I just see that, let me actually send back again another round of team assignment. How about that? So everyone knows exactly when they're 1 second. That will Yeah, let's see how the dice goes, and then if until the like 7th, 8th, that is still really flooded, then we can figure it out.
Trump for the
Tell
innovative lab and have any session I will be here because I kind of need to take shower first.
me. Okay. Yeah.
You back in the
Yes, sure. You'll be checking in. Just like checking in.
Oh, you mean like
Like,
oh,
yeah, like come on
but-
to Gather Town.
Okay, sure. I actually haven't been on Gather Town yet.
That's okay. Yeah, so,
Just text me if anything. I'll be checking my phone.
okay, hang on, I'm sending this again. 1 second. Okay, sending. So, it's gonna bring it to midnight? Wow.